now. Thank you all so much for coming. And I believe we can get started.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, I want to echo that. Thank you, Darren, and thank you everyone for being here. Our meeting, given that we have a quorum for the State Board of Education, Student Engagement and Experience Committee, is beginning. I am Ben Williams. I'm the Ward 1 representative on the State Board of Education. Today, we're going to turn things over here just in a moment to learn more about Safe Passage and the upcoming plans for Safe Passage. Our agenda follows with just a general open question and answer session to figure out how the state board can better collaborate with the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice. And then us as members will move forward with narrowing the committee's research to figure out what part of safety we want to focus on, along with some updates on voter registration work, our work plan, and debriefing the out-of-school time panel that the state board recently had. Are there any questions or any additions to the agenda before we move into our presentation?
Nope.
No? All right. Seattle, welcome. I want to turn things over to you and your team, and appreciate everyone being here for our committee meeting today.
Hey, everybody, can you hear us okay? We're trying to do all the tech as well. That's thumbs up.
Okay.
Nice to see you, everybody. I'm Nicole Peckham. I serve as Deputy Mayor Apia's Chief of Staff here in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice. We're running into a little bit of tech on our end. So can you see the Safe Passage slide without any additional prompts in front of it? It's clean. It looks good.
Looks good.
Can.
Awesome. Okay, so here we are. Again, I'm Nicole Peckham. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, Lindsay Apia. I have programmatic oversight of our team as we support and serve the 12 district agencies we oversee, plus our own programming here in our office, which is Safe Passage and the newly created Safe Commercial Corridor grant as well. Turn over to Sia to introduce herself.
Hey, good people. How are you? I'm Seattle Savoy. I am the program advisor for the Safe Passage program. And I will turn it over to my colleague who's online, Jasmine, to do her introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize. I had my camera on, but it's for some reason prompted off. So I'm not sure if that's on my side or on your side, but just letting you know. Until that's fixed, I'm Jasmine Benab with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, Community Outreach Coordinator, and oversee operations for Safe Passages.
And then what we're going to do today is that we have a slide deck to walk you through. We're tracking the questions that you provided beforehand. Thanks so much for doing that. And then we can take any additional questions that you might have at the end. So we're just going to jump in here. Really wanted to make sure that we could lay the foundation so that you hear from us here at DMPSJ about what we see Safe Passage as today and moving forward in the future, now that it has that we have the day-to-day management and oversight of the program, which came to us at the start of this fiscal year. So last October, we had the true blessing to now actually have day-to-day management and oversight of the Safe Passage program. For school year 23-24, we are in 48 schools and 5 metros. That is the coverage area that is serviced by Safe Passage. And one of the things that you're going to hear the three of us talk about during our course of our time together today is really to make sure that you have it when we're done. What we want you to walk away with is when we're referring to the Safe Passage program managed by DMPSJ, we also know the phrase Safe Passage itself is being used within the educational setting about related to all things about how we get our kids to and from school safely, or really to and from wherever they're headed safely, right? It could be the rec center, it can be this, it can be that. Our program, proper noun Safe Passage, is the coverage of routes around 48 schools and 5 metros. And this year we have about 180 Safe Passage ambassadors that are assigned to staff those routes to make sure that when our youth are going to and from school, they are the extra eyes and ears in the community. And they are really working to try to build positive, trusting relationships with not only the kids that we see every morning, but the parents and caretakers in their lives. Oftentimes, children can be accompanied with their parents or a guardian, but at some point they also then send them on their way a couple of blocks down, they get to school. One of the other things I really want to make sure that everybody on the line today also understands is that our Safe Passage ambassadors are not law enforcement officers. They're in our community as extra presence, extra government presence, and you'll see them with their presence with those nifty bright green vests that we have them wear that clearly identifies that they're a Safe Passage ambassador. They're not law enforcement officers. They're not armed. They're out there doing the good work to make sure that our kids can get to and from school safely. And what we'll talk about today are some of the processes that we've implemented in school year 23-24 with the hard work of Ciata and Jasmine to really make sure that our Safe Passage ambassadors that are out in the field doing this work not only have the support they would need if something would escalate, but then how in return you'll hear us talk today about how do we get information from them when their eyes and ears hear and see something in the community, especially along those school routes, that needs to be addressed. And then most importantly, we want you to know is that the Safe Passage coverage does not end with the end of the traditional school year. We will be out in the community with the identified summer school locations that also not only do summer school, but supplement the SYEP program. So you will see ambassadors loud and proud this summer across our city where we'll have those summer site locations and where students from multiple neighborhoods will be coming into one consolidated space. So now we're going to turn over for Ciata and Jasmine to kind of walk you through the status of the program, some things that we implemented in school year 23-24 that we think we're definitely headed in a great direction with this program, because you'll also hear next year this program is proposed to grow.
All right, I will kick us off. Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm going to bring some excitement and energy because these are very exciting updates that I want to share. This is new for our fiscal year this summer. And so I'll start off with programmatic monitoring. I won't read through everything, but I just wanted to kind of highlight and voice up a few things. We are doing ongoing site visits. And so I myself go out and do site visits. I've done about 38 site visits so far at schools alongside your partners, the student advocates. And so we've been out listening to young people, engaging school communities. My colleague Jasmine also does site visits from the operations side, which is really exciting because that kind of focuses more on the maps and making sure that the teams are implementing the program and they're aligned with the program goals. We also do desk audits. That's where my financial and grant management background comes in. We're making sure that the Fidelity as a grant funding organization, that they are following the rules and the policies throughout the grant award that they've been issued. And we also do quarterly program reports just to kind of do a check-in each quarter to see how things are going, what are some challenges, what are some strengths, where can we highlight. And we also do monthly staff meetings with the core team members, again, to kind of talk about things in real time and how we can make changes and improve the program. And so Jasmine is going to take the next two sections.
Thank you, Ciata. I was trying to see if I could turn my computer on and I can't still, so apologies. Increased
One second,
communication.
Jasmine, Darren, are you able to help her turn on the video?
Yeah,
While
I thought it went through. Let me try it again.
No, it didn't.
I'm gonna make you a host. If you could hand that back over
She
afterwards.
is the hostess with the mostest, so this works.
Yeah.
That fits
Wow.
perfectly.
Does it work now,
that-
Jasmine, if you click video?
No, it doesn't. It won't, it just would do nothing. I was on earlier and I don't know why it's not allowing me to.
Would you, I apologize, would you mind signing out and signing back in? There might be some
I mean, do
technical.
we have time or do you just want me to start? It's up to you.
Do you have like a link to slides or something that I can share? Or if you want to share with your
Oh, no,
colleagues?
no, I'm not sharing anything. Everything here on the screen is what we're gonna use. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, if I apologize, if you could.
No, no worries at all. Mm-mm. So increased communication, Safe Passage ambassadors are required to participate in one-on-one monthly meetings, which they discuss challenges, successes, And also they usually use this space to discuss strategy to effectively engage students during their, while the students are to and from school. That is sometimes a challenge for them. So this also gives them that space to kind of strategize as a team to discuss more on what they can effectively do and implement to be able to engage the students as they are traveling to and from school. They also have daily or weekly, depending on the school, communications with school leaders, which they check in with them, whether it can sometimes be a principal, can be a dean, can be assistant principal, whomever the principal designates for them is who they will check in with on a regular basis. For some schools, like I said, it depends. It could be daily or a couple times a week. It just varies. But normally they are on a call with them or on the phone with them, communicating, daily or every other day on incidents. So that way they're sharing that information. If something's happening in the schools, we have some schools that really are great and good at sharing that information, just letting them know this happened during these school hours. We may think that it may filter outside and vice versa. Maybe the school, they went great, but then after school, there was an incident. So they're letting the school know as well, around 5 p.m. we know school is out, but there was an incident, so it can prepare them to be prepared for the next morning. And also when need be, they have really been starting to communicate with law enforcement, depending on the area. Some are closer with the commanders, some call watch commanders. Maybe it's the SRO on site that they're communicating with. So I think each area is very different and unique to what's going on, right? So we know that Ward 7 and 8 have a lot more incidents, that they do have a lot more MPD presence in certain areas and SROs that are on site most of the time when Safe Passage ambassadors are there. So they're able to actually communicate with them face to face. Opposed to other areas, maybe not as much, so they may give them a call. But mainly that is done with the supervisors as the Safe Passage ambassadors are out monitoring. They're also communicating with their supervisors. We also have a WhatsApp group where they're just flagging any real-time issues in the morning before school starts and right after school, just to make sure that we're aware, and law enforcement and everyone is aware when students are just outside congregating before school starts. So they may do that update only to flag. They don't do it on a normal basis, but they'll flag about 8:50 to 8:55 if they're seeing a lot of students outside still congregating and we know that school has started. They will also report out, like if they have tried to engage, which, for example, the other day, there were 10 students outside across the street from a school. They were able to go over there and engage with them. They were able to get 2 of them to go back into class. The other 8 didn't. So we have to make sure that we're keeping them safe as well, the students. So we let MPD know as well as the school to see if collectively they can come out and try to engage with them, because we're also seeing a lot of incidents are occurring after school starts where we're trying to avoid that as well. So that has actually, I think, been working very effectively lately as well. They also do that if they're at the metros. If students are just lingering around, they're also doing the same. And we're communicating with WMATA on a regular basis to let them know as well when students are just there and hanging out. After like the 9, we understand some get there late. So we start doing this probably about 8:55 to 9 a.m. is when we start flagging. Reporting. So this year we have started a new reporting tool, which is the unusual incident report. If there is an incident that they see while they're out there, remember, they're the eyes and ears, so they're looking at everything, they're monitoring. They do an incident report. We've noticed as well, they're even doing a lot of environmental incident reports as well. If they're seeing something that, is quality of life concerns, they're also flagging that as well in the UI incident report. In addition to that, we do have a 5:30 call where we're on a call with all areas across the district that have Safe Passage ambassadors and their supervisors. And they're flagging real time. So whatever incidents occurred that we need to make sure schools are aware of the next morning, or we need to make sure MPD is aware of, they're flagging that real time. Giving even again, quality of life issues, right? So there was a car that was burnt, left in front of a school. They were able to flag that real time. And by the time the students went to school the next day, it was removed, right? Because we also don't want students have to be going to school, walking by a burnt car or other things that, normally we want them to have a clean and safe environment. So they also flag not only incidents, but also quality of life issues as well. If no one has any questions, I'll give it back to Ciara for training opportunities.
We're gonna,
Oh.
we hold our questions till y'all are finished?
That would be great, actually. Let's do that. That way we can get through and have plenty of time.
Thank you, Jasmine. So training opportunities. Our office has been providing trainings throughout the year to Safe Passage ambassadors, as well as the managers. This year, we've partnered with the Deputy Mayor of Education, their training institute, and they facilitated trainings for 108 of our Safe Passage ambassadors. Also during spring break, our office held a spring break kickoff of trainings for our Safe Passage ambassadors as well. We focused on youth development. We also focus on positive engagement. And so training is a big push for our office to make sure that our grantees, our Safe Passage ambassadors are trained and have the skills to implement the program. So we're really excited about our training opportunities. I'm going to pass it back to Jasmine to finish us out on this slide.
Okay, student monitoring engagement. So what we did this year as well, something new that we started is, I think we've always used in the past Google Maps this year around, which was new to all of us. So they're also getting adapted to it. So were we, interactive maps. So now there's a link that we can share with the community members, with Safe Passage ambassadors, that show the actual route that they walk. And even in that interactive map will show them like the closest fire station in case that may be in need, the closest police station, the closest like traffic control officer nearest to that school or their route. And the route is showing them which route they're walking, and they are expected to walk that about 5 to 6 times an hour as they're monitoring and walking those routes. So that's a new tool that we started this year as well, which is an interactive map as they're monitoring students. So they also know, and we come up with that, we create that. And of course, we change it as it goes, as students flow to and from school may change and the routes may change. We also can update that real time as well. So that will show you all the areas that they're walking. On the interactive map, you just click on the area and it just pops up that one area that you're requesting to see where your Safe Passage ambassadors are and the route that they walk.
All right, thank you, Jasmine. I'm going to focus on some wins and opportunities. So we've collected 330 unusual incident reports. That's what Jasmine was talking about, using our new tool that's user-friendly and easy for our Safe Passage ambassadors to track what's going on as the eyes and ears in the community. We've facilitated 142 daily calls and hosted 25 Safe Passage pop-up events. And these events typically happen around the schools that they're assigned, and so they are put up a tent. They'll provide resources. They'll have something fun like maybe an ice cream truck outside, just to engage the school community and families, share information about Safe Passage and safety tips. Where we see some opportunities is that we want to enhance our monitoring and program oversight. And I think just kind of sharing those updates that we are doing that by monitoring them financially as well as their programmatic goals. We want to improve community engagement and look at trends and gaps in service. Strengthen our coordination with school partners. Ding, ding, ding. We know we're in the room with folks that are interested in supporting us. So hopefully we can talk a little bit further about that through our questions and Q&A. And then we also want to encourage trusted adults to apply. One of the barriers or challenges that community-based organizations voiced up was making sure they have quality and trusted adults that are applying for the job so they can be positioned in their assigned routes and provide the support needed to students and families. And so those are our wins and opportunities. And so we'll open up the floor for questions.
Yeah, and before we move to questions, I do want to emphasize the last point that Siada shared. If you know people that are looking for part-time work or have retired and looking for a 2-hour commitment in the morning, 2.5-hour commitment in the morning, about a 2.5-hour commitment in the afternoon, this is the perfect job for someone. And I know that our CBO partners, the 4 that Siada interacts with all of the time, would love and appreciate additional employment pipeline tools so that when people decide to move on, and that happens as we make choices of where we want to be employed, we have to have a really good pipeline of people from all over our community that want to be able to interact with kids in a positive, safe manner. This is the perfect job for them. So if you at the end have questions, Siada can connect you with the different folks at the 4 CBOs who are always looking to be hiring safe passage ambassadors. We would really appreciate. That's my first request for a partnership, is amplifying the employment opportunity. So we'll dive into other questions you might have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicole. So I'm going to start with just Darren's question from the chat, and then Representative O'Leary and Villaflor, I'm going to come to you next. So are there specific safe passage zones or wards that you feel like the State Board of Education can help with?
Talk to me a little bit about what you mean, like help with, or is that more like, explain to me your definition of help so I can meet you where that question might be.
For employment.
Oh, for employment, I would say all 4. So all 4 CBOs are always actively looking, especially as we're heading into the summer as well. Jasmine and her team are currently developing an operational plan that will keep our safe passage ambassadors out in the field a little bit more this summer, but still is an amazing opportunity for someone who's retired, someone who wants part-time work, some light work where they can, maybe they're a weekend-based full-time gig. They have, Monday through Tuesdays or Wednesdays off. Let's connect them with the CBO and see if we can make something happen. I think the thing that's a little bit different with summer, and I'll have Jasmine jump in, is that our layout for the summer coverage is going to be a little different than our traditional school year, because the number of the buildings where DCPS and PCS are going to have summer school are just a little bit different. So we're doing some shifting right now. Jazz, do you want to kind of talk to them about what your vision is for what summer may look like?
Yes, thank you. So as we know, not all schools will be open throughout the summer. We're going to be in probably, I think in total, to include high school, middle schools, and charters, probably about no more than 28 schools, because they're going to be consolidating them throughout the summer. So we're going to have maybe in one middle school, 5 schools going, in one school area. So what we're trying to do now is we're going to be able to expand the footprint of each of those areas throughout the summer, have more hours, more presence throughout the day. We know that also with more hours, we know it's going to be a hot summer. People do need to rest at times. So we're also wanting to put closest to that area, to that intersection, placing a tent there that would have a table and chairs, maybe some water so that safe passage ambassadors can just relax a little bit, rest for a few minutes as they're walking their routes, getting some water and hydrating, but also a place that school officials, community, ANCs, everyone will know where they are, and they can come by and just chit chat with them, check in with them. If they want to come out and do a couple hours, they'll know exactly where to go, because we do get, requests of community members wanting to come out, even if it's for 30 minutes, right? They just want to come out. But just so that they'll have that hub and that home base where they'll be able to go to, and everybody will know where those tent locations are to be able to meet them throughout the summer. And we're hoping to do this, expanding it at least for don't quote me on this, maybe 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 8 to 4. So there will be a bigger presence and also a larger footprint around these schools that are, because we also want to cover, we know they're going to have the bridge program, they have summer youth employment. We also have a lot of DPR rec centers in the area, in some of the areas of the schools, other SYP locations. So we're trying to be able to hit all those locations plus the metro. And just where students will be flowing back and forth, whether they're going to summer school or not, we know that we're going to have young people all over the place on all these routes, whether they're just hanging out, going to a job, going to school, or just up to something, right? That we want to try to prevent them and just be able to engage with them a little more. Also, when you have that tent location, some people come and say, even young people will say, what are you doing here, right? And that's a good way for them to be able to engage with them as well.
Makes sense. Thank you, Jasmine.
Mhm.
Did you want to add something?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
You bet. All right, Representative O'Leary, you want to jump in?
Sure. I'll start backwards on my list. Are you when you're talking about people who don't have jobs or would like to work part-time, have you thought about talking to the graduating seniors at the graduations, having a presence at graduations, sort of advertising that there are openings for part-time summer employment or whatever? It's because there are students who aren't who aren't thinking about going to college and might not be thinking about doing anything in the summertime, but they know the neighborhoods. So, and that's the important thing as far as I'm concerned, as far as safe passage is that the people recognize people from the neighborhoods that can help them resolve minor differences. Let's put it that way. That's just a thought. What about what percentage of your safe passage workers at schools like Cardozo or Roosevelt speak Spanish?
I think we would maybe have to get back to you on the percentage. Jasmine, unless you know.
I would just, okay, yeah, we'll definitely get back to you on the percentage, but I just want to say that in the RFA, when we put out our request for applications, we actually specify that certain schools, Roosevelt and Cardozo are listed, have to have Spanish-speaking staff that can accommodate students who don't necessarily speak English as their first language. And so that's
Right.
our requirement for their application when they submit for funding with our office.
And Chuck.
And check, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Check, Cardozo. Right now that I know that we have bilingual workers is Check, Cardozo, Roosevelt, all the ones that were listed in RFA. And in addition, Jackson Reed was added as well. I don't know if that was in the
Yeah.
RFA, but they know the need. They saw the need.
Coolidge is when because I spent a lot of time in the areas, and as I watch students going to, let's say, Ida B. Wells, and Ida B. Wells and Coolidge and Whittier are stone's throw from each other. But I just wondered, because I know that several of my former students are safe passage workers at Coolidge, and I haven't seen anyone except African American workers at Coolidge as safe passage workers. And it's not just, it could be Eritrean students too, or Ethiopian students, it would be students who relate well to someone who looks like them, put it that way, or speaks like them. That's just a thought. You said something about from 9:55 to 8:55 to 9 a.m. at the Met going to the Metro in the morning.
Yes. I'm sorry. I don't understand your question. You mean
Yeah, that
the,
was, Jasmine mentioned that. I think, is it Mr. Frazier? I guess that's what the bottom says. Sorry if I didn't.
I'm Frazier.
Frazier. So yeah, what Jasmine's explaining is that the Safe Passage ambassadors do just the post bell check. And that's where if there's a group of children congregating in locations that they need to be in the building and they're not, Safe Passage makes the first attempts to engage. And if the children don't listen to the Safe Passage ambassadors, there is a way to alert or notify other officials that we need these kids to move on. And that's what Jasmine was referring to about if there's larger groups of children standing in one location that aren't at school yet. Because that's the difference between Safe Passage and then school authorities and Metro Police, right? Metropolitan Police Department. Safe
Right.
Passage is going to encourage as the eyes and ears, but there is only so much that they can do. And then they flag appropriately, like, hey, we've got 7, youth standing in front of X high school. They're not going inside.
I was just thinking about, like, Roosevelt is kind of sort of close to the Petworth Metro. And so, Roosevelt and McFarland students come off the Petworth Metro, and it's only 3 blocks. So that, and that's one thing. But Coolidge and Ida B. Wells in Ward 4 are a long way from the Tacoma Metro.
Yep.
It's not just a short hike. And I think that if they see the kids respond to discipline, and kids respond, I'm talking about positively. They like having people caring about them and there to help them. So if there's a presence of safe passage workers between the Tacoma Metro and that site at Coolidge and Ida B. Wells, just encouraging students to walk a little faster or whatever would be a big help, because that presence is important. When the dismissal is, all the students get to, from the beginning of their departure from school, they get to the top of Fifth and Sheridan, and then they disperse wherever they're going. But the students that go to from Roosevelt and McFarland to the Petworth Metro, you know, having sort of a link with safe passage workers towards the metro or coming from the metro in the mornings, it would be important, I think, because the police, you know, students react differently to the police than they do the safe passage workers,
Mhm.
right? And rightfully so, they should, you know. Okay, how do the you talked about a timeline between principals or school officials and the safe passage workers. Do the principals know the names of the safe passage workers?
So it depends on the school. There are
Okay,
some.
that shouldn't, it shouldn't depend on the school.
Correct. That's absolutely right. But unfortunately, we don't have it just depends on how much the principal, you know, how the principal engages with safe passage ambassadors, if they're the ones that are meeting with them on a regular basis. We know principals are also very, you know, busy throughout the day, so they will designate someone to, you know,
No,
to be.
I'm talking about a it doesn't have to be the principal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the designee. Yes, yes, I believe so.
They have
Yes.
a meeting at the beginning in August, all right, before school starts. Is there a meeting with the safe passage workers at those
So we'll have
particular?
one in, yeah, we'll have one in this August, since we took over October 1st. We have some different things that we're gonna do to onboard the new
Great.
school.
Great. And I think it would also be important for the principals to introduce themselves in that meeting to those workers, so that there's a symbiotic relationship between the safe passage workers and the people, the administration of the school.
Fraser,
I've only got one more.
Could I add one more thing, Fraser, to that question?
Sure, sure.
And so we've implemented a principal weekly form. It's 4 questions, just where the safe passage ambassador or manager does meet with the principal on a weekly basis or the designee. And so we ask them to meet with the principal, ask 4 questions. How are things going? What can we change in real time for next week? What should be on our horizon that's coming up, or any challenges? Are there anything that you'd like us to address moving forward? And so it's a week. So it's supposed to be a week to week to allow you to make those changes in real time. And then our office collects those weekly forms and uploads it in our database. And so I track and monitor those reports that come in. So that does kind of help encourage those relationships between the managers, the safe passage ambassadors, and the principals or the designee.
Great. And you, I think, and I'm just giving advice from,
Yeah, it's wonderful advice.
since I was in the school system for 50 years, having that pipeline of information it doesn't have any kind of barriers in it is extremely important, because just like the violence interrupters, the safe passage workers should have a pulse of what's going on in the community. And a lot of those things can be, depending on the schools, all right? Like Cardozo used to be a neighborhood school. And so we knew if there was something going on between Clifton Terrace and Garfield, just a block away, somebody in the building or somebody outside knew about that. So we could stop that from coming into the building. Like Coolidge is not surrounded by public housing at all. All right. So that the kids are coming in Coolidge are coming from neighborhoods from all over the city, because they provide programs that are very valuable. But people have to find out what they're bringing to the building every day. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
And Jasmine's team, Jasmine serves multiple hats for DMPSJ. Safe Passage is just one sliver of what Jasmine's work is here for our team. She's also heavily involved in our violence intervention work across the city. And it is a continuum, as you just explained. So there is constant flow of information. Yes, this nexus of this program is schools, but as you just said, that conflict doesn't care that there's a brick building or that we've crossed a street, right? So having Jasmine on the operational side, really being our eyes and ears, she can help connect the dots. If something's happening at school, chances are that is filtering out into the community, and she and the VIs are tracking that or should be tracking that. So it is really a constant flow of information within our credible contacts within the public safety and justice ecosystem. That's our attempts at this.
And the opposite of that is true too. If something happened at a party Friday night, and it might come back into school on Monday.
Yep,
Mhm.
most definitely. And just to add, in addition to that, I communicate with the schools often. So when there are incidents in the community the night before, even if it's not a safe passage route, I'm always communicating with them, right? So that they're fully aware as much as I can, and if I can reach them, so that they know what to expect the next day. They also
Great.
know too what's going on in their neighborhood. So when they see an alert, they're texting me like, do we have anything to worry about? Are these any of our students? So they're also fully aware and always on alert as well. More, I think, than we realize. They really are, and they're always looking out for the best interest of the students. So they're always reaching out, especially certain schools that we know have a high crime rate and a high number of incidents throughout the day and also after school, and those students that they serve, knowing that when they go back to their neighborhoods that may not be around that school, they're always concerned. So they're always watching out for alerts, and we're always communicating just to make sure that we have extra coverage the next morning, making sure safe passage ambassadors are aware, and that the school is aware as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. Due to time, I'm gonna move things to Representative Villaflor if you have a quick question. And then I think what we're gonna do, just to respect everyone's time, is we can also, with the state board, email over some additional questions. If that's okay, and just to be in continued correspondence, I would like for us to figure out how we can continue just collaborating and be supportive of your agency, and likewise to be able to amplify anything that needs to be amplified. But I want to be mindful of time as well. So, Representative Villaflor, do you have any questions?
I think all of my questions have been answered. Just like a recommendation or a comment that I think in the evaluation of the Safe Passage program, I think student voices and student experience are just like very important to be heard. So like maybe surveying students about how they experience Safe Passage, because I know a lot of students that have had very like positive relationships with Safe Passage workers, and I think that should be reflected.
Awesome, thank you. Is that something that's currently being done, or is that something that would be a change?
So that's currently being done. And so alongside the the student advocate groups, we've conducted surveys with students. We've also joined the MIGVA group and surveyed those students as well, about safety in general, but safe passage has always been a topic and an item in the survey. And so we're hoping, I think that the turnaround for that survey should be in the next couple of weeks. I think the last visit that we did, they said they were going to be kind of closing out the surveys and providing those recommendations to us. So great recommendation. It is happening. I think elevating youth voice is very important. And we have, elevated to our chief of staff. We've also, you'll see it in our RFA that comes out. A few things that young people have said during our meetings made its way to the RFA.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative Villaflor. And then, yeah, I have a couple questions, but because of time, I'm gonna just kind of send them over via email. The things that I'm interested in are learning a little bit more about like the 5 metros that Safe Passage program is working at, and seeing if there's like any collaboration with, what the collaboration kind of looks like. There's a lot of nuance, I think, that I was even able to deepen my understanding on from Representative O'Leary's questions around that. And it's nice to know that there's like a citywide call daily, and just knowing kind of like what the communication within a school and or between schools look like, right? Like, because then yeah, I hate to use the term best practices, but just so people can learn from each other and you can continue to implement and improve the quality of care that and oversight and support that we're providing to increase safety. And then I don't know if you have any other last words that would be helpful, Nicole, Seattle, or Jasmine, just around how we can continue to strengthen the collaboration with the state board as a whole, or things that would be useful from you to get from us. But I'm happy to kind of work with Darren to follow up with y'all to make sure that we can partner moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We just appreciate this opportunity to be able to define for you and share what safe passage means to us so that when you hear us and the deputy mayor talk about the safe passage program in the community, you have a conceptual idea now of really seeing what we mean. Because as I said from the top, the concept of lower S and smaller P safe passage is becoming very much a conversation in the educational space across really our country and in our community. But when you hear us talk about the Safe Passage program, we wanted to make sure we were laying out for you what that program is, how we're supporting our kids, how we're trying to make sure that that presence not only increases their safety, but reduces crime, right? And most importantly, our path forward in school year 24-25. We're really excited. We're going to have a very busy next 4 to 6 weeks as we prepare for school year 24-25 and just continue and appreciate the dialogue. Please send us the questions. We'll get you the answers pretty quickly.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you all for joining
Nice
us.
to meet all of you.
Likewise.
Thanks for your passion. We appreciate it.
Thank you
Absolutely.
everyone for having us.
Awesome. So we're gonna just kind of quickly move into the debrief. That took a little longer than expected, and I do want to just respect time and make sure that we do end at 5 today. And then if we need to kind of follow up via email or other things afterwards, we'll make sure to do that. So just for a couple minutes, what are folks kind of just takeaways from what we just heard, and any ways that we need to kind of communicate some of the things with other board members at the working session, or things that we want to follow up on?
I thought there was a great presentation. I would like to think about something maybe in the spring, a follow-up panel, or maybe just individuals testifying about where they are now,
Mm-hmm.
because they've got a lot of new initiatives, and I'd like to see how it's working, because it's a very, very important piece. But I know that you've gone around looking at how they're working at different schools, and there are a lot of gaps.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is like it takes more in-depth conversation and more knowledge of like the programmatic elements to really get clear on that, so that we can improve those gaps quicker. Yeah. Representative Villaflor,
No,
anything?
we don't want to improve the gaps. We want to get rid of the
Yeah, eliminate. Exactly. Not, yeah, that didn't mean widen per se.
gaps. Don't forget I'm an English teacher.
Anything on your end, Representative Villaflor?
Not really, but it was a good presentation.
Great. And I know you had mentioned to me that if you do need to head out early, we can make sure to fill you in. So feel free to take care of what you need to. I think for me, yeah, the gaps are a big piece. I want to know a little bit more just about the communication holistically, like the quality of it. Like I was saying, the communication between sites. Fraser, your point around just like somebody at the school needs to know who's working at their school, and like how, and knowing that those communication channels are clear. Because otherwise, if they're not, then people drop the ball and people don't communicate. And then we end up having like more problems, and people and students end up feeling less safe. So I'd like to kind of look a little more nuts and bolts as to like what their communication and their program rollout looks like. So even like Darren, when we follow up, like I'd be curious to kind of know where they're operating this summer. I don't know if we know that already. But kind of figuring out how they're collecting data this summer, and then how that could also be used in the fall. Because I feel like too often, like they'll survey folks, but then it'll take 6 months to a year for them to then say like, okay, how are we going to do things differently? I'd like to know that the turnaround in which they're incorporating feedback and acting on it is in real time.
Have we been given the list of summer school sites? I don't remember seeing anything. I don't even know if there's a summer school in Ward 4. But I'm
I
sure
am not
that may
aware of
be-
it yet.
That may be my ignorance, but I don't remember seeing, like, are there middle school, summer school sites? Are there elementary school, summer school sites? I don't
That was
think that,
that was one
I
of the
don't-
things I was gonna ask. I don't know at this moment, but if
well, hell, it's summer school time, man.
we're getting
Summer-
there.
I
We're
can,
getting
I
there.
can, share out what I have, and that's probably good to confirm with them.
Okay.
Follow-up email with the MPSJ, just, what they know, because those are a lot of really good questions that we can.
This isn't a question really for them. This is a question for me as far as DCPS. Like, I don't even know about charter schools. Do charter schools have summer school?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. How many are there?
Each school pretty much does their own thing. I don't think they'll team up, so to speak, with other schools, so to speak.
Is that voluntary or is it mandated by the charter school charter or that they have a summer program?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's mandatory that students get the required credits. How they get those credits, I think, has some flexibility. But I know that like our school here at Capital City, like we offer it every year.
You do. Can a
Yeah.
public school student take your program in the summer?
I don't think that's what happens. No. I think it's just for the school. I think it's just for the school. So I think in that way, charter schools are more siloed.
Uh-huh. Because when she was talking about 5 schools in one
Mhm.
site, remember she mentioned that?
Yeah.
I didn't, I wasn't gonna ask 800 questions, but I don't understand how that is. I know when we had summer school, I used to teach summer school back in 1,000 years ago. And when we had summer school, it was usually just students from the Cardozo neighborhood, but we had 1,800 students at Cardozo when I started
Right.
there. And it was a neighborhood school.
Right. No, I hear that. I think we need to get clear on that. Moving us along, Fraser, we're
Yeah,
trying to
definitely.
figure out where we kind of want to take the committee work in relation to student safety. So this is obviously something that we can follow up with Carlene and Eric as well. But just kind of thinking about what piece and what we want to narrow the scope of the research to, and or like what outcome we want to have, and I'm thinking kind of both with regards to you know, in response to and in partnership with our like representative communities, but then also like when we're in budget season next year, like how do we want to inform this conversation with the council or with the mayor? So like to
Which
me,
might be a good idea to have that panel that I mentioned. I didn't think about it in that context, to have that panel like sort of right at the end of the first semester, because then it would give us information for the budget. Because we got to start talking about the budget in February.
even before, I mean, I think we submit that stuff to the mayor really in the fall.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So, yeah. Um,
Because they've got new programs. So they
Mhm.
should have data on those new programs by the 1st of November at the latest.
yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything new in particular with this, but it's something that I want us to be able to like add to our work plan. And given the importance of it, we could even do like a work with MICFA in the near future to kind of do a roundtable. And I know the MICFA challenge is going to be having students placed in a lot of different agencies that are going to be studying elements of public safety. So I'd love to be able to figure out even if the SAC wants to be involved with this and what piece they might want to play. But I don't have any particular like new strategies other than just general principles of like involving students and thinking about how it can be actionable in the upcoming budget cycle. Any final words on that, Darren or Fraser?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Just really quickly, and
Yeah.
maybe this is just a conversation offline with the rest of the members, but in terms of narrowing the committee research, having just a research question, getting something out early June
Yeah.
would be ideal because there's a bidding process that has to take place. And it's likely if we're going to survey or focus or do focus groups on students, that'll likely take place in August or September. And
Yeah.
just spend those funds by the end of September. And so having like a quick, things will happen really quickly with that. And so maybe by early June, I'm hoping to get a statement of work, something out there based on that. So we can, I can,
Are you talking about a general research question, like based on school safety and something else too?
yeah,
Just because I think we need to make sure that that Carlene gets a chance to, is Eric on this too?
yeah. So that's why let me do it offline because I've also kind of did a crosswalk of all the other studies going on right now. I know Office of Student Advocate is doing their surveys and focus groups on safety and safe passage. And so just making sure we're not doing a focus group on the same questions that others are asking.
Oh, okay, okay.
And with DMPSJ, if they're doing their own surveys and focus groups. So
Right. And Darren, the other issue that we decided on as a committee too was chronic absenteeism, right?
mhm.
So I mean, to me, this really dovetails there with like even just narrowing it to how like transportation and safety is impacting students getting to school. And I'm wondering if that's the case, if like, you know, because that's where the tension with the council is right now. And even when I think about the DC Policy Center's most recent report, like in their state of the schools, the first thing that it comes up is truancy, you know, and I think safety both within the school building and getting to the school building is one reason that students aren't feeling the need to come back to school.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think that's a great idea. Maybe we should focus on truancy and chronic absenteeism.
yeah.
Oh,
And
because you gave us sort of a laundry list of everybody that's doing the other surveys, and you're right, it's a hot topic. I think truancy and chronic absenteeism is something that we could maybe concentrate on as our first survey.
yeah,
Then we got to figure out what
Yeah.
questions to ask and who to ask the questions.
I could work with you, Ben, and then with the wider committee members to just narrow down the scope, like the research questions scope, what a deliverable will look like and how
Yeah.
it will advance the work of the committee,
Yeah.
the state board.
I
Uh,
like that. And I think Darren too, like, you know, thinking about, I don't know if I want us to also work like in collaboration with like you know, so like, I know that Jen is working on the absenteeism crosswalk, right? So like, how does this fit with that? And then also, even if we just reached out to the DC Policy Center and said like, hey, what are the lingering questions that you didn't answer in your report where we could fill that gap and find out some useful data that is coming from students and families. I feel like that would be really beneficial to jump in this fall.
That's
Yeah,
great.
there are some topics that we could really, a focus group could really allow us to dig really deep into that a general survey doesn't get. It just scratches the surface. So in terms of like, and even in past reports, it's shown like female students and their experiences going to and from school.
Yeah,
Diving really deep into that. What does that look like? How can it help? And then kind of having different questions that touch on within the school, outside of school, recreation centers, but also safe passage, like diving into these. So
Right.
we're also sharing a report with these other agencies.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
we
agree.
could go
I
in
like that.
a lot of different directions. It could be Spanish speaking students, female students, LGBTQ plus students. There's a lot to dive into. They can share offline.
Cool. Yeah, we're just about out of time. Fraser, the other things that I wanted to touch on today, which we can follow up with, are just like finalizing like the voter registration work. I'm going to ask Aussie, and the Board of Elections to like just get us numbers for what percentage of students are registered at each school, at least for the senior class. But then, we want to kind of have one final push right now. And when I say we, I'm talking about like the National Women's Foundation, the League of Women Voters, and like a position that I also share with encouraging like right before graduation, not like on graduation day, but like in these coming weeks, right? That for students to register so that even if they don't vote in the primary, they're registered for the general election.
Yeah, well, didn't we, was there anything done about that, like those end of year meetings at the schools? And where the seniors get preparing for graduation? I think I brought that up at
Yeah,
one
we
of our
didn't
public
get
meetings.
much response, but we did communicate. And the thing is, like, the National Women's Foundation has these cards, like, just like, or like congrats on graduating, and then like it has like a couple steps, like fill out this form, and it's just a one final way of like celebrating students for crossing the stage, but also like,
Yeah, but
just
the good thing about having that pre-graduation meetings is it's really a captive audience.
yeah,
And
100%.
so and it's a matter of, I understand what you're saying about celebration and stuff like that. It's also a matter of fill out this damn form right now, or you're not going to be able to leave the auditorium, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, so we
Not that I
might
would ever do anything like that, except every day.
all right, so Darren, I'm gonna follow up with you about our work plan. And then Fraser, we will just kind of raise some of the next steps. I mean, Darren, you did a great job of like really highlighting some of the takeaways from the out of school time panel. But I know that we need to continue to kind of discuss that as a board to figure out where we go from there.
And I want to just mention Karuna did a majority of that work, who's on the call. So thank you, Karuna, for
Yeah, thank you, Karuna. That was
Of
great.
course, happy to help.
She's got everything down. I know that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It was great it was
Yeah, no
very,
problem.
it jogged my brain in a perfect way today. I wish we had more time to discuss that. But thank you all. Darren, I'll follow up with you via email or text. And appreciate everyone being here today for our discussion. And to the viewing public, we will be sorry for the interruption. This is what schools do. But we will have our working session at 5 o'clock next Wednesday. So tune in for that if you are available.
Darren, can you stay on for 1 second?
Absolutely. Let me just stop recording.